It's the Underpowered Hour. We're away on our holiday break, so enjoy these shorts, and we'll see you in the new year. All right, Ike. Well, we're back with our, I think people prefer these mini-sodes because it's the least amount of time you need to spend with us each week.
I agree. I think this is a great format. We should continue this trend.
Continue this, yeah. This is it. This is the last one, and we're going out with a bang. With
we have such
everyone's favorite topic.
An interesting and unresolvable, unresolvable question that we're going to discuss today. That is really popular to fight over amongst Land Rover enthusiasts, automobile enthusiasts in general.
I would say, generally speaking,
Generally speaking. Now, genuine versus aftermarket parts. Where do you stand on this?
Oh, boy. Well, I think whenever possible, I may be, and I think you share this this particular disposition with me, I try to go with new old stock genuine parts whenever possible, which is... obviously a luxury that you and I share in having access to
beluga caviar and new old stock Land Rover.
But traditionally I am a genuine parts person. I don't necessarily. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, like, how come you don't have like a Land Rover with like an LS swapped engine or something like that? And I've sort of said, like, you know what? It's not really my thing. In fact, you know what? I had lunch with Ralph Sarek and his wonderful wife just not that long ago as they came to visit here in the workshop.
Yeah.
We're actually talking about a BMW swapped Land Rover Defender that he's done. And that actually makes a lot of sense because when you think about it, that was a factory option. Yeah. There were those BMW engined Defenders. So that might actually be an interesting project to take on, is to do one of those BMW engine swaps, and that would give you some of the benefit of an LS swap Defender, but still be technically, like a Parenti or something, be sort of canonically correct in a way. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
A variant, less fan fiction than
the LS one. So where do you stand, Ike, on the genuine versus the
I believe
aftermarket?
That you should build every single part yourself
by hand on the lathe and milling machine.
Yeah,
from brass.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. New old stock parts that were built during the time period where your car was built, usually are the best fitting parts.
So good, yeah.
Usually are the best fitting parts. Certainly over the years, updates are made, refinements are introduced, Some things are nice to have across different vintages, and that's one of the wonderful things about Land Rovers is, parts fit over a number of different years, from like the 40s through the 80s. You have a vast amount of interchange between those vehicles. But certainly aftermarket parts allow you to maintain your vehicle more cost effectively than genuine parts in a number of cases. Yep. But with a big exception in cases where they don't fit or fail, which is a lot of cases, and then it's less cost effective, certainly in terms of time. So
exactly, when your steering relay breaks and you careen into a ditch, it's a lot more expensive.
It's a lot more expensive. So there's this appeal on the one hand, hey, I'm going to save some money for a very similar part, and oftentimes the thinking is, in some cases the aftermarket part and the genuine part, the only difference is a box, right? And so the supplier for the genuine part is the same supplier for the aftermarket part. Right. And so what makes this debate so complex and so difficult to answer is it's really a case-by-case basis. And it's also over time, it changes. So the like the genuine parts supplier now for part X is different than the parts supplier was in the 80s.
That's right.
And so in those cases, the genuine part has declined in quality in some cases, and in other cases, it's improved in quality.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult question to answer. So back to your point, new old stock parts tend to be predictable in that way. Like if you buy a new old stock part, you kind of know what you're getting. If you order a part with a part number from one of the big box Land Rover suppliers, you're not sure what is going to arrive until you get it. And then you don't know if it's going to last until you put it on your car.
That's right.
So as somebody that works on Land Rovers all the time, the new old stock stuff is predictable. And for us, it allows us some level of foresight. Is this part going to fit? Is it going to work? Are we going to have to, file it down or adjust it or do whatever to make it work for this application? But it's not always an option, either because of budgetary concerns or because of availability, because
they're just
obviously
not around
with new
anymore.
old stuff, it's not always available. But in the cases where it is, and Land Rovers do excel in this aspect, there's a lot of new old stock stuff for Land Rovers. So
there sure is,
we sure like it, when we can get it.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just like you said, it's a level of vending where you can sometimes find, the idle air servo on the Land Rover V8s, for instance, on the fuel injected ones. That's a matter of the common part for that same Buick engine is super inexpensive, but the Land Rover genuine one, which is exactly the same, is 5 times the cost. However, finding exactly the right Buick part number that is the right thread and the right, all that sort of stuff is really, really difficult. That's where, sometimes going to a forum or something and, looking that up.
Yeah.
No,
that makes sense.
Gone down that road.
Especially with older Land Rovers, there's a lot of parts suppliers. Lucas is a great example. Lucas parts were used on a number of different British cars, and some of those British cars are, how do we want to say this, less expensive than others.
That's
and
right.
So the parts for them tend to be less expensive, or at least have a less expensive perceived value. So you might have the same part for an MG, a Jaguar, and a Land Rover. And there's a big discrepancy in terms of the prices that people are asking for those from the various suppliers. Now, I had the opposite happen to me recently. I was looking for the small Clayton triangular heater badge for an 80-inch. We were putting a heater badge in, and the new heaters, they just come with a sticker. They don't have the old school badge on them. So I was like, I'll get a badge for that. There were some Land Rover suppliers selling that badge for $40. But apparently those Clayton heaters were also used in 1950s Ferraris. And believe it or not, a Ferrari supplier was selling that badge for $12.
That has got to be the first time in history that a Ferrari part is cheaper than a Land Rover part.
It's true. It's the same part too.
Wow.
So anyway, it does pay to shop around, look around for that stuff, or ask somebody that's really knowledgeable. But man, it can be very confusing to try and get to the bottom of that as somebody that doesn't, work in the industry or have access to all these parts catalogs and interchanges and so forth. It can sure be difficult. And that's why there's such a good enthusiast movement around Land Rovers. There's always somebody happy to help you with that, or happy to share their personal experience with those parts.
And that's why I only just ask Ike and have him send me whatever.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah, that's right. And then not pay for it. But that's the benefit there. But yeah, no, it's true. And, when in doubt, just ask an expert. I mean, give Ikert and the gang up there at Pangolin 4x4 a call, and there's a very good chance they will have what you need for newer Land Rovers. Both Rovers North and Atlantic British stock genuine parts as well as non-genuine options. And oftentimes, in fact, Rovers North, I love it. They put it right on the page. So if you're on the non-genuine part, it also gives you the genuine option right on that same page, so you can decide. You can look at the cost difference between
It doesn't differentiate. It just says aftermarket versus genuine. It doesn't say like the actual supplier. So it still is a little opaque there, because there's tons of different suppliers for aftermarket parts.
Yes, that's right. So you don't necessarily know what aftermarket part you're getting. A lot of the time, I think Rovers North is doing their own kind of white labeling, and they're theoretically finding the better one of those. But most of the time, it's going to be Brit part stuff that you're getting in from the UK. And man, your mileage may vary on that shit.
Doesn't always come from the UK, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it could be.
We thought about putting a country of origin, on our page, to sort of.
It's a good idea.
Make that a little bit more transparent.
A little more transparent. Yeah. Well, there you have it. So if you didn't get the Land Rover parts that you wanted this holiday season, then go ahead and head on over to the old Ike Pangolin 4x4 and get yourself some new old stock, genuine parts that absolutely will stand the test of time, because they kind of already have. They've already been around for.
There's no better way to repair your 60-year-old Land Rover than with 60-year-old
parts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and get a 60-year-old guy to help you. So there you go. And at that's the end of our mini episode series here in the new year. We're back starting next week with all new shows. And oh boy, what a year we have ahead of us with Land Rover running the Dakar, the girls back in the Rebelle Rally again, whole kinds of great new guests, all kinds of new ones, and lots of old friends joining us again. And who knows, we'll probably show up.
We got some big adventures planned for the new year.
Oh boy, I can't wait. There's going to be lots of exciting stuff to talk about. So until then, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you soon.